and welcome to the platform, a new media forum that focuses on the next generation network solutions marketplace. I'm Neal Axelrad, CEO of GCS, and I'll be your host as we explore the challenges the carriers are facing and what solutions are available to help them meet these challenges. Today, I'm joined by Steve Francesco of Cohere Communications. Steve, welcome to the platform, and thanks for joining us.
Neal, thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. So, general questions to start. Could you tell us a little bit about Cohere Communications in general?
I'd be happy to. Cohere Communications is a managed service provider. Our focus is voice over IP. We serve enterprises both nationally, North America, globally when needed. Our clients need what is called a stable network in which applications, especially voice, video, and data can be transported. Cohere's been around about 5 years. We have offices in Toronto, New York, and Chicago. And we host our applications in data centers within Toronto and New York today.
Okay, interesting. So I know that you guys are involved in cloud communications, and I know that the industry is evolving at a very quick rate. So why do you think companies are moving to the cloud right now?
Well, the cloud has started out as an ASP model. I remember that term, Applications as Service Provider. Then it went to another model called SaaS, Software as a Service. And then it went into what is host or managed service computing. And today it's being called cloud computing, where more of the applications are getting into the core of the network. Mm-hmm. It's much more cost effective, reliability, security, ease of deployment, less manpower to support. And the networks have become much more stable to support those type of applications.
Interesting. So I think that, I've been part of, we call it the hosted environment as well. So it comes with many names. So and when we used to look at it, it was the majority of the customers that were involved with the green fields and maybe guys who had an issue with CapEx, and they were looking to implement a lower cost infrastructure initially. Where are you seeing the carriers now? Are they small carriers? Are they larger carriers? What's the market look like?
We see the larger players trying to figure out how to close down data centers and just use resources as needed basis. Mm-hmm. We don't feel like they have to support that infrastructure going forward. They're becoming much more dependent on the network to deliver services to their client, to their customers. The network has become the asset of the environment today, where it's been commoditized, computing power today. Applications are being commoditized as well. The network itself is the delivery mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So what makes, I'm not going to say it's a crowded market, but there's new entrants into the market. So what makes Cohere different? Why would I want to go to Cohere instead of going to company XYZ?
We have a very good understanding of the applications and the deployment of those applications, and we focus in on specific markets, the media market being one. We have a number of media customers across North America, and financial services. That's where my roots are from. Mm-hmm. I understand their specific requirements. I understand the evolving changes, low latency networks, delivering information, basically pushing the limits of what can be delivered.
Interesting. So what direction are you looking to push Cohere into right now?
We want to put every type of service at the end of the wire. Mm-hmm. We believe the end of the wire is going to be transparent way of delivering services. All customers are going to care about is what is the end application and how does it meet their client requirements.
So are these your applications, or are you hosting other applications? Is it a mix of both?
That's a good question. Mm-hmm. Right now, we develop nothing. We find out we take the best of breed applications, including BroadSoft as our core voice over IP platform. Mm-hmm. We also are looking at IBM Blade servers, VMware. We have also Citrix, in which the new ZenThing client. We're looking at applications so folks can manage it within the core and make it look local to what they're actually operating at the local premise.
That's interesting. Maybe your customers would be interested in a rating and routing mechanism similar to GCS.
Rating and routing has always been something people want to understand is how to squeeze more margin out of their business. There is nothing wrong with squeezing more. Today, everyone has to turn around and become more cost effective to compete. And margin is what allows you to do that.
Interesting.
And being profitable is a good thing, as you're well aware.
Absolutely. So looking into the future, so where do you think the industry is moving in general?
We're still in our infancy of developing this cloud computing environment. There's still a lot of great unknowns. We're starting to understand of what are the security aspects. How do we turn around and morph projects from one environment to another? how do we turn around and what we develop for a client, how do we move it over to the client side of the business. We see that in advertising a lot. They get a lot of client projects. What you're trying to figure out is how do we make it transparent to what they need to operate going forward. But we see the whole landscape changing. There has to be more tools. Right now, the current infrastructure is still fairly expensive, VMware being one, but Citrix to deploy on a service provider basis, the model is still being worked out.
Right.
And that's going to take probably next 2 to 3 years to really take hold.
So what do you say to a customer who's, let's say they're a tier 1 service provider? I need everything behind my firewall. I'm not used to giving up control. What do you say to those guys? Those are really the bread and butter of the industry. We're kind of in similar businesses.
Yes.
So what do you say to those guys? And teach me.
We basically say take the non-critical apps that you don't have to run in-house today and that can move into the network. Get a comfort level. Test the waters out. Don't dive in feet first and thinking everything is going to float to the surface and be well. It's still going to take time to install what you have in place behind your firewalls into the network side of the business. And we believe it's a gradual process. It's not an all or nothing deal.
Right.
We think we coexist today with folks who have servers at their site as well as within our co-location spaces around the country.
Right. And where do you see the growth going in the industry? Is it in mobile? Is it in mobile apps? I mean, everybody kind of wants to jump on the Google bandwagon and
Well, the problem is everyone looks at mobility, but the towers themselves have to be backhauled to something. The network itself still has to deliver an infrastructure, and we see everything going fiber,
Right.
and more fiber being deployed, and that's where some of the best benefits have come out. There's so much fiber that was laid during the 80s and 90s, and the head equipment has become so much cheaper to put out there that almost anyone can start up their own delivery or long-haul system or long-haul environment today.
Right.
So we see mobile is great, but it's not the end-all, be-all. People are still tethered. Still, people want data local to where they are. They don't want to have data spread over what I consider the wireless air.
So you're looking more at, let's say, enterprise or medium enterprise?
We're looking at medium to enterprise. The small and medium-sized business are still looking at how do I turn around and conserve what I have? Can I, especially in this current economic times, how do I make it go longer without investing any money? I mean, everyone got hurt during this recession. We saw the downsizing. We don't see the upgrowth, and it's been 2.5 years later, going on its third year. So the large enterprises are saying, how do I prepare for the future? And what we're doing is their future.
Right. Interesting. So kind of looking into the future, what companies do you think will survive in this environment? We talked about that it's a difficult environment. Which ones are going to thrive and survive, and which ones do you think will be the ones that?
Are you talking about customer accounts? Or
Well, either one. How about you? Let's go with customers first, and then go with competitors afterward.
I think customers who did the right thing in closing down ineffective business units who had a single client, those customers who've taken the hard choice of retooling themselves during this process, looking at what were critical apps and what weren't critical apps, basically also preserving what investment they've already made. We see the financial firms have done a fairly good job. All the big guys have moved away, and most of the smaller or medium-sized guys have soaked up their clients over the last few years. So there's a rejuvenation on the financial services sector. But as far as the technology guys, I think VMware has done a terrific job.
Absolutely.
I think IBM, HP have done terrific jobs. I still worry about the technologies from Dell and a few other players when you talk about mass storage. The cost of storage when you can buy a 2 terabyte drive for $99, and then you go to a mass storage unit and they want $70,000 for 8 terabytes, there's still a disparity of what you're paying for, what you're really getting on the back end. I think that's going to work itself out as well. I think NAS and SAS and some of these other technologies for storage, because that's one of the things we do have a thirst for, storing data, and we do produce a lot of it by the second.
Good, excellent. So what markets do you cover right now, and how would you like to get the word out to everybody who wants more business? That's what we're all kind of sitting here for. Where are you, U.S. domestic focused? Are you globally focused? And what's your sales model and delivery model? Do you work with agents? Things like that.
We've been so far direct sales. We've had very few direct agents. We find out, I come from the old school, own the client, IBM's motto there. We look at distribution through our client relationships today. We've been introduced to Bangalore, Hong Kong, Beijing, Mexico, Colombia, Brazil. We have a global distribution. We don't have a global presence. Most of our technology we deploy is shrink wrapped, so we basically stage it, move it anywhere in the world. I would say 95% of my clients I have not met personally, not that I wouldn't like to, but today video conferencing is allowing us at least to interact on a face-to-face basis. But we see a changing landscape. You have to be global today. If you're not global, even being in Canada gives us an international flavor. I think most American firms are leaving a lot off the table in which they can grab a hold of.
Right. So that actually brings up another question, so how do you handle the support/maintenance of the multiple platforms? Do you sit in the tier 1 side and then push off the tier 2 onto the provider that's providing the actual software service?
We actually provide tier 1 to tier 4
Excellent.
service. I mean, we have engineers in the back end. We have a NOC center. We provide support 22 hours a day, 6 days a week with hands-on people, and we have operator support for those other hours that we're not manned. We find out clients are operating well beyond the traditional hours of the U.S., and we have to meet those demands. As far as using technology, we've actually instituted a lot of tools and diagnostic tools that help diagnose remote situations, and they've been a godsend. They've allowed us to take a global presence. And when we deploy, right now we're looking to deploy in South Africa, we have no manpower going out there. We work with the IT people to deploy the project, and it's working out well.
So it sounds like you have a remote turnkey solution, full back-end support. It sounds like a great
I think
product.
that's the only way to work today. You cannot overstaff. Again, if we're not making money and we have to overcharge our customers to sustain ourselves, they'll find another provider.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you guys have done a great job. I wish you all the luck going in the new year coming. Appreciate you stopping by. I'd love to have you back at some point to do a more in-depth. I'd love to kind of see the tools, and maybe we can figure out how to get that on video as soon as I figure out this video technology.
We would welcome a tour and coming back. And the last 2 or 3 months, I would say the economy's picked up a lot.
Absolutely.
And I see a lot of activity out there.
Knock on wood.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
2011. Thank you very much. We've been talking with Steve Francesco of Cohere Communications on the platform. Steve, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Neal. Thank you for your time.